The tailor who sewed secrets into every dress, then vanished. In a quiet village shadowed by a forest no map dared name, there lived a tailor named Island. His shop, thread and thimble, sat on the corner of a crooked lane, nestled between a crumbling candle shop and a flower stall that only sold wilted roses. No one remembered when Island arrived in town. One day the shop was empty, the next it smelled faintly of lavender and mothballs, and a sign appeared on the dusty glass. Custom garments, worn once, remembered forever. And remembered they were. His dresses were whispered about like legends. Brides claimed their gowns shimmered with memories they didn't own. Widows wept in mourning robes that sighed with voices no one else heard. A child once wore a velvet cloak that made him speak in tongues, only at night. They said Island worked in silence, stitching only after midnight. By dawn, each creation was folded perfectly and set in the window waiting. He never took coin. Only stories. People came with secrets, and he listened. A whispered confession. A guilty name. A truth meant to die untold. And in return, Island gifted them fabric wrapped in mystery. But those who wore his garments changed. One woman claimed the lining of her blouse repeated her husband's betrayal while she slept. A merchant burned his coat after it hummed lullabies in his dead daughter's voice. And yet no one stopped coming. Because the dresses were beautiful. Hauntingly so. Then one autumn night the shop went dark. The window shattered inward. The dresses inside were torn, ripped from hem to collar as if something had tried to escape them. Threads curled across the floor like veins, some still damp. And Island? Gone. No blood. No signs of struggle. Just his shears on the counter. And a single spool of silver thread, unwinding slowly, trailing out the door and into the dark. The villagers spoke less of him after that. Fear twisted their memories into rumors, and the tailor became a ghost with scissors for fingers. But one dress remained untouched, wrapped in paper beneath the counter. It bore no name, only a tag sewn into the collar. Do not wear if you've lied. And in the dead of night, someone knocked on the shuttered shop's door. The knock echoed again. Outside, the wind pushed dead leaves along the cobblestone like whispers in a hurry. No one in town dared approach the tailor's door, not since he vanished, but someone now stood beneath the awning, trembling beneath a heavy cloak. Her name was Lyra. She wasn't from the village. She had traveled 2 days and 1 night through forest paths, carrying only a satchel, a stitched notebook, and a faded photograph of a man with haunted eyes and a crooked smile. The man was Island, her father. He had left when she was 5, promising to return once he had stitched away the past. He never did. And so when the wind carried rumors of a vanished tailor and a cursed shop full of haunted dresses, Lyra followed the thread. Inside the air was heavy. Dust hung like fog. The silence wasn't quiet, it was listening. She stepped inside slowly. The shop was untouched. As if the tailor had stepped out for tea and never returned. Patterns still curled across the cutting table. A pincushion lay beside an unfinished sleeve. On the far wall, the mirror was cracked, splintered down the center like a wound. And there, on the counter, was the last dress. Wrapped in yellowed parchment. Tied with that strange silver thread. Lyra hesitated. Her heart beat harder than her boots against the floorboards. She reached for the note sewn to the collar again. Do not wear if you've lied. She hadn't lied. Not really. Not unless omission counted. She had never told her mother she'd been dreaming of the tailor for years. That his voice came in threads of sleep, whispering tales of fabric that remembered. That sometimes she woke with stitches on her arms. She opened the dress. It shimmered faintly in the low light. Black silk with veins of silver along the seams. The bodice was embroidered with a design that twisted the longer you stared. A spiral. An eye. A mouth. It was beautiful. She pressed it to her chest. Cold. Then warmth. Sudden. Spreading like ink in water. The mirror across the room shivered. And behind her something creaked. Not wood. Not wind. But the sound of a needle sliding through skin. The creaking didn't stop. It followed her, soft, deliberate, like the tightening of fabric across a chest that didn't want to be worn. Lyra turned, the dress clutched in her hands, and froze. A figure stood near the cracked mirror. Not a man. Not quite. A silhouette of shadow and thread, its limbs loosely stitched together with trembling seams. Its face was unfinished, blank linen where features should be, but where the eyes belonged, 2 silver needles gleamed, crossed like a seal. She blinked, and it vanished. But the dress in her hands pulsed. Once. Like a breath. She dropped it. It landed without sound, but a faint whisper rose from the floorboards. We remember what they gave us. The voice didn't come from the air. It came from inside the fabric. She backed away, knocking over a box of thimbles. They rolled across the floor like tiny bells without chimes. Then she saw the notebook. Not hers. This one was older, bound in worn leather and stitched in silver thread. It lay beneath the counter, almost buried in lint and torn lace. She opened it. Inside were names. Dozens. Hundreds. Next to each, a secret. A sentence. A truth. Agnes M. Det. I drowned him while he slept. Thomas K. Det. The child was never mine. Mother, I lied about the fire. And near the back, Lyra. No last name. No secret written beside it. Just her name, and a blank space. Her hands trembled. How did her name get here? She had never met her father after he disappeared. She'd never even spoken aloud what she feared most. But the book knew her. And something beneath the floorboard stirred again. Like a heartbeat under rotting wood. The mirror cracked further. And in it she saw not her reflection, but the tailor. He was standing in the woods. Silver thread looped between his fingers, sewing the mouth of a dress shut. But it wasn't cloth. It was skin. He looked up. And smiled. The image vanished. Lyra staggered back and looked at the dress on the floor. It had moved. Now it lay with the collar turned up, the tag facing her again. But the message had changed. You lied to yourself. The tag stared up at her. You lied to yourself. Lyra felt the words crawl beneath her skin like thread being pulled tight. Her breath shortened, like something was being sewn inside her lungs, stitch by stitch. She backed away from the dress. But it moved again. Not violently. Slowly. Like it was unfolding. Remembering how to wear a body. The sleeves lifted. The fabric rippled without wind. And from the center of the dress, something slid out. A single silver needle, dripping with black ink. It hovered midair for a heartbeat before dropping to the floor, piercing the wooden boards like flesh. Lyra turned to run, but the door had vanished. Not closed. Gone. Where it once stood was now a wall of stitched curtains, layered with pieces of half-finished garments, bodices with no backs, sleeves ending in fingers, collars embroidered with mouths. She screamed, but her voice didn't echo. It was absorbed. By the walls. By the fabric. By the shop that now breathed like a chest. Then she heard humming. Faint, but unmistakable. A lullaby. The same one her father used to hum while he worked in their old home. The melody was wrong now. Warped, like a music box buried in dirt. She turned slowly. The mirror was glowing. Silver light flickered across its surface, and in it, she saw the tailor's shop again. But not as it was. It was the past. Island stood there at the counter, young and alive. Behind him, a woman clutched a newborn, her face twisted with fear. Lyra stepped closer. The woman was her mother. She was screaming at him, begging him not to take the child. But Island only whispered, "She has to forget, or she'll remember what she is." Then he lifted the silver needle and pressed it gently to the infant's chest. Lyra gasped. A sharp sting bloomed just beneath her collarbone. She looked down. A seam had appeared across her skin. A stitch. Neat and silver. Her skin had been sewn once, long ago. And now the thread was coming undone. The dress behind her rose from the floor. Sleeves stretched open like arms. The collar widened into a smile. And the whisper came again. Wear the truth, or unravel. Lyra stood frozen. Heart clutched in terror. The silver thread beneath her skin now pulsing in rhythm with the whispers around her. The dress hovered in front of her, not lifeless fabric anymore, but something awake. Something that remembered. She tried to speak, but her voice was stitched shut by fear. The shop had become a cocoon. Every wall draped with garments that breathed. Sleeves rustled. Laces curled. Buttons blinked like eyes. The air was thick with thread and truth. And then her reflection moved. Not her. The mirror. Lyra stepped forward. Her face was stitched tighter, more perfect. Her eyes burned silver. And when she smiled, it wasn't a mouth, it was a seam. "You've always been mine," the mirror said. Lyra backed away. "No. I'm not one of them. You are the last secret he tried to bury. But you've come undone." Behind her, the dress lunged. It didn't wrap around her. It entered her. Fabric pierced skin like needles. Thread laced through her spine. The silver seam on her chest ripped open, and the dress slipped inside. She screamed. But it came out in song. The lullaby. Her father's voice and her own, singing together, stitched into one. Then silence. The mirror cracked again, this time inward. The reflection shattered, and beyond it she saw him. Island. Floating in a place of endless cloth. His hands still sewing, eyes hollowed out. He looked up at her. And for the first time, he wept. "I made you a vessel," he whispered. "I didn't mean to make you remember." Lyra floated above the floor now. Her eyes glowed silver. Her hands pulsed with threads not spun in this world. And around her, the dresses in the shop bowed. She had become what they feared. A memory unstitched. A secret no longer hidden. The last daughter of the tailor, who had sewn too many lies into silk and now left truth to wear the world. The next morning, the villagers found the shop open again. But the tailor was still gone. In his place stood a mannequin wearing a dress no one could describe. And sewn into its collar, a tag. She fit the truth. "Do you?" The wind hummed a lullaby through the shutters. And behind the mirror, silver thread kept moving.